I was still smiling when the clapping started. Slow, deliberate, mocking. 75 faces stared at me like jurors who'd already agreed on a verdict. No balloons, no music, just a ring of bodies and a folder heavy enough to break a wrist. My father didn't look at me when he handed it over. He stared at the carpet like it might testify for him. DNA, he said. You're not ours. My mother's hand closed around my keys before the words finished echoing. Possession, control, muscle memory. That's when the stranger stepped forward, clapping like he was proud of the timing. Tall, familiar jawline. My jawline. Happy birthday, he said. I found you. The room breathed again. Not for me, for him. I flipped the folder open. Charts, percentages, a signature I recognized from my parents' lawyer. The last page was a demand, reimbursement, 30 years itemized like a receipt, tuition, food, rent, interest. They wanted their money back. I thought about the first time I'd trusted them with something fragile. I was 8. I fell off my bike and broke my arm. My father told me pain teaches discipline. My mother told me not to cry because neighbors talk. I learned early that love in our house was conditional, performance-based, paid forward with obedience. So I became excellent. Top of my class, scholarships, a job that paid more at 25 than my father ever made. I bought the house they lived in now, put their names on it, paid the mortgage like a son paying dues. I thought excellence would make me unreplaceable. I was wrong. The signs came quietly. The sudden interest in my bank statements, my mother asking for copies for taxes, my father suggesting I add a clause to my will, family dinners where conversations stopped when I walked in, a locked drawer in my childhood room that used to be mine. Then, the message, a misdirected email from their lawyers CC'd by mistake. If he contests paternity, proceed with reimbursement claim. Beneficiary transfer already drafted. Already drafted. That's when I stopped reacting. I didn't confront them. I didn't ask questions. I asked for time. I hired a forensic accountant and a family law attorney who'd built a career dismantling polite fraud. I pulled my own DNA test and ran it through 3 databases. I found a match within a week. The stranger, my mother's affair 31 years ago. A man who died 6 months before I was born. A son he'd never known. A son my parents had found last year when my mother got sick and needed a donor. They didn't find a replacement. They found an upgrade. I let them think I was ignorant. I signed nothing. I moved my money quietly. I transferred the house into a trust with a clause they didn't read because they didn't think they needed to. I recorded conversations. I documented timelines. I waited. Back in the living room, the stranger, my biological half, stood where I used to stand. He smiled like he'd practiced it in the mirror. They took care of you, he said to me, like he was explaining a mercy. Now it's my turn. I nodded. Calm is a weapon if you know how to hold it. I asked one question. Did you read the trust? My father looked up for the first time, confused. The lawyer shifted his weight. I slid a second folder onto the coffee table, thinner, sharper. It contained proof of undue influence, forged signatures, and a clause triggered by attempted extortion. The house reverted to me the moment they demanded reimbursement. The accounts froze the moment they threatened seizure. The recordings played themselves. Silence is loud when it realizes it's been trapped. The strangers stopped clapping. I stood and took my keys back from my mother's hand. She didn't resist. She couldn't. Power had already moved rooms. You wanted your money back, I said. You'll get it in installments, garnished. Court ordered. You'll live in a place I don't own, with names I don't carry. My father opened his mouth. I closed it with a look. I turned to the stranger last. You didn't take my place, I told him. You rented it, and the lease just ended. I left while the room tried to remember how to breathe without me. Now, months later, I replay the clapping in my head, the confidence, the mistake. They thought blood was leverage. They thought history was ownership. They forgot who paid for the house, who built the quiet systems, who learned early that love comes with receipts. I didn't lose a family that night. I repossessed my life, and the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was mine.